also is going to have to pit here in a couple of minutes. He's way back in 14th position, now listed a slot ahead of Patrick Carpentier. 4 retirements in the event: Carpentier, Serbia, Mario Dominguez, and Kenny Breck. And Tagliani has chosen this moment to make that pit stop a couple of laps before he absolutely had to, but they've called him in. They thought they might have a gearbox problem. He's been offline a couple of times and off the racing circuit down at the hairpin. And here comes the race leader, Cristiano D'Amata, 6-time winner this year, down to 50 miles an hour and approaching his pit stall, as well as Tagliani up near D'Amata's pit is still getting his service. He's down and away. A little bit long pit stop there, it seemed. And Cristiano D'Amata, lower right on your screen, he's getting the service. Here comes Tony Kanaan in 3rd place. Dario Franchitti's already cleared the front straightaway and is officially the race leader at the conclusion of lap number 33. And D'Amata is away and now picking up the throttle as he clears the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit zone, and he's going to jump right in there. And Patrick Carpentier stands by in the pits with Todd Lewis.
Patrick, you were having a wonderful day, and then it all ended so quickly. Was it the motor?
Yeah, it's very tough. You know, it was fun to run up there and in front of the crowds, and I thought we were going to have a good race, but it started to lose a bit of speed, and I was struggling to follow Dario, and at the end it just gave up. But it's racing, and I guess it happens, but I just want to say thanks to the team and Spud Carsworth. They did a fantastic job this weekend, and sometimes it happens, but it's sad it happened here. But thanks to people who came too.
It's racing, and it happens, as you mentioned, but here in Montreal, in front of your hometown crowd, first time out, it would have been a special feeling, and we really saw the emotion of Patrick Carpentier.
Yeah, it would have been fantastic. It seems like we're going to finish in the top 3, and to get a podium here would have been great, but maybe other time.
Thank you, Patrick.
Dario Franchitti has gone to the point we've got a battle down in the corner.
Yeah. Ride him, cowboy. That was Dixon.
Dixon against Takagi. Dixon trying to overtake, and he overcooked it into the corner. Takagi held on to the corner, and now they get it pointed in the right direction, and off they go down the straightaway. Franchitti leads. We're in Montreal. Welcome back to Montreal. A look there at Paul Tracy, currently running in the 4th position. 20 seconds off the pace being set by Dario Franchitti, and a few seconds behind Cristiano D'Amata, who got brilliant service and tactical decision-making from his team just a few moments ago under the green when they pitted, and got back out just behind Bruno Junqueira and 15 seconds off the lead. Now, how do you pull that one off? Because we didn't expect them to be able to do that.
What happened is this whole group were looking. We thought that he was going to slot back in this zone. But what happened is the crew did not make a 10-second pit stop. Of course, that makes a whole lot of sense. If you're going to make 4 stops, you don't need as much fuel. So what they did is they took on less fuel. He had a much quicker pit stop, and amazingly, he pops out in 3rd. Now, he is 16 seconds off of the lead, but I mean, that is much higher than both you and I expected. And, of course, they're making their strategy looking like it's going to pay now.
Well, it may pay off indeed, as he's running in the 3rd position out of sequence. He still is committed to a 4-stop race. But if he gets a break or two from here to the end, he will be certainly in the fight for the lead right at the critical moment, the last few laps. But he will have to stop 4 times, and the rest of those in the top 7 at least will only have to stop 3 in the event. They've each stopped once so far.
Now, I will tell you that I spoke with a couple of engineers about how much time would they lose on pit road, and they did tell me an average was about 25 seconds. But the one thing they didn't know, as Paul Tracy gets a bit sideways in the hairpin, is that when you leave the pits, you get to take a shortcut. You can get to turn 2 faster when you leave the pits than if you're on the racetrack. It appears as though at speed, you actually make up more distance than we thought. Todd?
Jan Beekes, I can confirm you're exactly right. It was a quicker pit stop for Cristiano D'Amata. They only put 25 gallons of fuel in the last time by. Of course, the tank holds 35. Quicker pit stop gets them out in a better position.
They're able to pick up the throttle just as they clear the pits down there. And the acceleration of these machines with a shorter line into turn number 1, you're saving some pavement to get there. So they picked up, I don't know, we don't know how much they pick up. This is the first time they've been here, but maybe a second or 2.
Well, it has to be more than that, because our calculation, again, was if he made a 10-second pit stop, he would have been back in 10th. Well, he made a 6-second pit stop, and he ended up in 3rd. So, therefore, he must have picked up another 2 seconds, you would think, by taking the shortcut. So that was more than the engineers were banking on.
Dario Franchitti on the point. 10 seconds now in front of Junqueira. 16.2 ahead of D'Amata, 22.7 ahead of Tracy, 23.4 ahead of Jimmy Vasser. 5 laps from now, 4 of the top 5 will be facing their second pit stop. That will be Franchitti, Junqueira, Tracy, and Vasser, and that will shuffle D'Amata back to the front, but out of sequence. So an interesting tactical battle unfolding, and Cristiano D'Amata may be getting the better of it, perhaps because his team read that pit out situation better than anybody else on the grounds.
Well, you know, we've been trying to figure out why they would want to pit more times than anyone else and do so deliberately. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe they figured, you know what, we don't lose very much time on pit road because of the shortcut. We don't mind making 4 stops if everyone else makes 3.
See the standings. Nakano in the 6th spot, Takagi just behind him, and Dixon running top 10. Tony Kanaan, who is on the identical strategy as D'Amata, is in the 9th spot. Then Michel Jourdain, Christian Fittipaldi, and Michael Andretti has now made his way into the points in 12th spot, followed by Fernandez in pain but still active, and Tagliani in the 14th position in the race of the 14 that are running. He is now better than a lap off the pace of this race, the first lap traffic in the contest. 39 of 80 laps are concluded. They're working leader lap number 40 coming up, and that will be half distance, and it'll be as a practical matter an official race, though the weather isn't threatening to make it anything less than 80. Man, what a glorious weekend it has been. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday here in the Ile de Notre Dame. Big crowds, great enthusiasm. A lot of folks here are certainly disappointed with what's turned out with the players' situation. Tagliani with trouble and Patrick out of the race now, but still they have Canadian interest in the top 5 in Paul Tracy, and he may well pull it off before it's done, before the day is all said and done too.
These overhead shots just give you such a great idea of the acceleration and the deceleration when you hit the brakes, in that you have sort of the accordion effect, is that as the time stays the same, let's say you're 1 second behind someone, at 190 miles an hour, 1 second is a large distance. You go down to 37 miles an hour, and it's a short distance. It's great to look overhead and see that accordion effect.
Good look at Dario Franchitti, who yesterday, after he qualified on the front row, I thought was still a somewhat disappointed player, only because well, what he said was, I was able to cobble together a fast lap, but he didn't seem all that pleased with the prospect for the race, as though he could get 80 good laps out of the car or something. He just didn't seem as though he felt right, but so far today, not so bad.
No, no, his attitude has improved markedly now that he has a 10.5 second lead. You also saw some smoke in the hairpin, and that is the indication that he locked a brake, that he's pushing hard. You know, they're on the radios, they know what's going on, they're watching D'Amata, and they're going, you know what, he's not as far back as we thought, you got to push hard.
D'Amata now 17 seconds back. Dario Franchitti just turned a brilliant lap, 120.375, his fastest and in the event, and it pulled him away from everybody behind it in spite of the smoke down in the hairpin. He is pushing hard, as you suggest, Jan Beekes, and drawing away just a little bit. Tracy now 25 seconds behind. Vasser is 26 seconds behind, and that top 5 order remains static for the moment, but 2 laps from now it's going to move around just a little bit.
Yeah, we're getting a good look at Bruno Junqueira. Certainly, I would say one of the more dynamic guys out here emotionally, and a good interval back to Cristiano D'Amata, who, of course, you know, that's kind of what you don't want. You don't want a carrot in front of Cristiano D'Amata that he can chase down, because that's one of the things drivers really like. If you can just see a car ahead of you and it gives you something to chase down, that's sometimes when you do your best laps of all.
And those are 2 fellows that are fairly used to working against each other on a racetrack. Since their youth, they have done so, as D'Amata moves through the hairpin and onto the straightaway. And this summer in kart, they've raced side by side. The fellows from Brazil, from the same hometown, fathers that raced against each other. They raced against each other and traveled to races as friends in their youth, and now they're reunited, much to their surprise. And I think it's genuine surprise that they both landed in approximately the same spot. Pretty unusual.
It is.
Junqueira did a speed up that trip around and gained some ground back in second place. He picked up a couple of tenths against Dario Franchitti, no more. D'Amata down to 18.4 seconds behind the point break. He doesn't need to be in any hurry. He knows what's going to happen here. The next lap around is the cruise for Franchitti and Junqueira and Tracy and Vassar and Nakano lay out their tires. Also due in is Scott Dixon and Christian Fittipaldi. It won't be a jam-packed pit road, but it'll be busy enough.
So we'll be back to D'Amata, Takagi, and Kanaan, the same three that we had in the lead on the previous one. And again, the only thing that will throw this thing for a loop is if he had a full course caution in between when one group pits versus another.
So far, it's been pretty clean. We had a couple of full course cautions earlier on for relatively minor incidents. The Kenny Breck deal in the beginning. Here comes Dario Franchitti on schedule into the pits. Junqueira should follow him in about 10 seconds time as he puts on the brakes and gets it down to the 50-mile-an-hour speed limit. He has hit in as Dario Franchitti hits his marks. Up it goes. Here comes Junqueira, and he's approaching his pit stall. Service to the Team Green machine is underway. Todd Lewis, you're there.
In Bruno Junqueira's pit, actually waiting for the second place runner to come in. Hits the marks right on. Crew goes towards. So far, pretty routine service. Fuel going in. A little bit of difficulty with the left front tire. They do get it on now. Dull tires done. Waiting on fuel. And Bruno Junqueira is on his way.
So he storms away. Meantime, Dario Franchitti trips the lights and left. Officially in second place in that particular instance.
Paul Tracy launching out of his pit box as well.
So Cristiano D'Amata moves to the front. Takagi moves up. So's Kanaan and Jourdain and Michael Andretti into the top 7. We'll wait to see how it sorts itself out. There's a good look at what we're talking about. Pit exit is straight here, and turn 1 and 2 takes the cars on the track way to the right and then back to the left. It's a lot more pavement to cover at about the same speed because the cars coming off the pit straight are on the brakes.
And I just did some arithmetic here. I used my stopwatch to see how long Dario was on pit road as opposed to the guys that stayed out on the racetrack, and the engineers were right. It's about 25 seconds that you lose. So that just goes, I mean, D'Amata, those couple laps that he did prior and after to his pit stop to get him into that position, that was pretty amazing.
Meantime, on the racetrack, we have Vassar and Paul Tracy hammer and tong after they left the pits. This is for position as Tracy takes a look to the left. It's a lot bumpier over there going into the hairpin, and he tucks in behind the back wing of Vassar. So they swapped positions here just a moment ago, and Tracy obviously would like to have it back.
Well, that's the pit stop. Remember last time we were saying, did Jimmy Vassar cut him off? And you know what, or actually, did Paul Tracy cut him off? And now this is going to be a bonsai move that we talked about. Can he go side by side into the chicane?
He moves him over to the left side. Now the straight line through the chicane, and Paul got the slipstream, jumped out as you suggested in the piece at the beginning, and then finished it under braking. If it was just under braking, maybe not. But with the slipstream braking combination, he did it. Let's go downstairs.
Michael Andretti's pit stop, he was delayed slightly as they loaded up with fuel. He would take on the full load, and Michael's back in the race.
Take a look down at the hairpin. What happened? Paul Tracy couldn't do it to the outside there, but he did it here.
Like you said, he was in position to polish it off. And what he did is, instead of Jimmy Vassar pushing Paul Tracy offline, Paul Tracy pushed Jimmy Vassar offline. And as they say, the rest is history.
And so he gets the space back. Paul Tracy runs in 7th. To reset it at the top, Cristiano D'Amata is the leader on leader lap 44. Then Franchitti, Takagi 3rd, then Kanaan, then Bruno Junqueira. Very interesting race in Montreal. Don't go away. Back at the Molson Indy, Montreal. It is Cristiano D'Amata on the point, followed by Franchitti. Tora Takagi in 3rd, then Kanaan and Junqueira, the top 5. As they continue to circulate, there's a look at Tony Kanaan in the 4th position. And it's a good deal back to Bruno Junqueira. Quick note, we do have technical difficulties that have jumped up at us here on the island, and nobody is getting onboard camera service. We can't go on board with any of the runners right now. They're working on it. We hope to get back onto the track with the driver shortly, but right now we simply cannot do so. Tracy is up to 6th, and then Jimmy Vassar. That was a nice little battle a little while ago. And there's Bruno Junqueira looking for his 2nd victory of the year as he moves through off the pit road and down into turn 1 and 2. This is the area where they're making up enormous time coming out of pit stops, apparently, on Beacus. We're running a watch on that. Did you